Although I highly rate Eddie Howe and I think he's a top five manager in the Premier League, he absolutely fumbled this match. And I believe if he would have made this one change, Newcastle would have won this game. But the whole problem is in the front three. I don't know why Nick Woltemade did not get the shout to be the starting number 9. Instead, he put out Gordon. Now, nothing wrong with Gordon being striker, but in this match specifically, Nick Woltemade would have been perfect. And Barnes here had an absolute disaster class this game. I think he played really poor. And if you would have had Gordon from the start on the left and Nick Woltemade up top, they would have gone in at halftime at least 1-0 up. Defensively, the first half, solid. Midfield was absolutely on point. But when it came to the second half, that's when Barcelona took advantage when Marcus Rashford had, obviously a very amazing performance. Tip my cap to him, filling in for Lamine Yamal. Absolutely taking the most out of the opportunity that Lamine Yamal left Rashford. He scored 2 absolute beauty of goals. I'm not going to lie to you. One of them was absolutely amazing. The second one, whew. But if Nick Woltemade would have played striker, I think this opportunity right here that Anthony Gordon ends up missing when Anthony Alonso goes down the right wing and crosses it and he misses the ball completely. This is an absolute Nick Woltemade poacher shot that would have gone in the back of the net if he had the opportunity. As well, Harvey Barnes had a couple opportunities where even one of them he was caught offsides that I think Anthony Gordon would have taken full advantage of. But as well, when Nick Woltemade came onto the pitch in around minute 60, 65, and between that, he absolutely made an impact. Obviously, he looked a bit nervous. It was his first really Champions League game, for Newcastle here playing against Barcelona of all teams. Really could make a player nervous, especially the youngster in Nick Woltemade here, who's in his early 20s. So he comes in as a substitution. Looked a bit shaky at first, but then when he really got it together, what caused problems for Barcelona center backs was he was really holding up play and absolutely distributing and creating chances. The goal that actually Anthony Gordon ends up scoring comes off a pass from the midfield to Nick Woltemade. First touch, boom, plays it back to the midfield, as a little post, and then they put through Murphy, I believe, on the right-hand side, and he gets to play the ball into Anthony Gordon, which I think this would have been in the first half really ideal with Nick Woltemade serving as a post and holding up play, creating chances, drawing in the center backs, drawing in defenders, which would allow Anthony Elanga and Gordon to really play behind the fullbacks, which at the moment Barcelona's fullback on the left-hand side is a bit weak. That's why, Elanga had so much space and created so many chances because Balde's injured. Obviously on the left-hand side, Araujo and Gordon really would have gone at it. It would have been a fairly even match considering how solid Koundé is. But Woltemade against Araujo and Kubaresi, sorry, would have had their hands full considering he was the tallest out of the three, as well as he would have been holding up play. Physically, I think Woltemade would have been able to match Araujo as well. But genuinely, he really messed up not putting Woltemade at striker. I feel like he just didn't think that, Woltemade would have been able to really come into the match unnervous. But I think it took him a few minutes to really settle in. But the thing is, just there wasn't enough confidence from Eddie Howe. I thought he was definitely going to get the start since he had just scored in his debut. But I guess Eddie Howe just didn't have confidence in coming in. But honestly, Newcastle with Nick Woltemade looks promising. And to be honest, it really took Marcus Rashford to score 2 absolute screamers, or 1 screamer and 1 great goal, to really put themselves over Newcastle. And Newcastle really proved that, their stadium is a tough place to go to. Even Barcelona had trouble. We've seen big teams like PSG get absolutely humiliated. But, you got to give it to Barcelona and Marcus Rashford especially for really putting themselves over Newcastle. It's not a pretty place to do it. Arsenal haven't won there in 3 years. So for Barcelona to come in there and win really shows, how great that team is. And the midfield between Pedri and De Jong, that was an absolute solid midfield. The really great thing was this was a great test for Pedri and De Jong and people who don't really don't highly rate Pedri. Going up against that midfield, it's a very physical, very technically great, between Tonali, Joelinton, and Bruno G. It's a tough midfield to always play against. You see all these teams struggle in St. James Park because those three midfielders really do run up the match, and they could really control it, and they could really attack quickly. You know, the goal, you see they're playing one-touch football after coming out and stealing the ball. It's a tough midfield, and I think Pedri really passed the test here. So you have to really give either man of the match goes to Rashford or Pedri, because I'm not gonna lie, I haven't been his biggest fan, but Pedri had an absolute beauty of a match, and I thought he was going to be overwhelmed by Joelinton and Bruno G. You know, they're very physical players, but he managed to really control the match, and you have to give it to him. When a player has a great game, you have to give credit. So Rashford, De Jong, and Pedri really stood out to me. So, hey, if Eddie Howe, though, I feel like if Nick Woltemade would have played, it would have been a different story, because they would have gotten at halftime 1-0. Guaranteed. He puts this chance away, or that chance that Harvey Barnes missed, but he was offsides. I think Anthony Gordon times his run and scores that. So one of those two would have gone in, and it's a different story going in 1-0 against Barça at home. You know, PSG, you know, they folded. Just saying. But anyways, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. Leave a comment down below. Do you think Eddie Howe did the right decision leaving Nick Woltemade out, or should he have played? But anyways, thank you guys for watching.